Simon. Welcome, Village of Roscoe Planning Session. I'm certainly glad that the heat didn't deter you. And we're excited about what we're going to hear this evening. We've heard several versions, but we have an update. And if you're new to the presentation, feel free to offer suggestions or commentary whenever. So we'll just officially roll. Okay, so I would like to introduce to you David Sidney and his colleagues, Adi, and your last name?
Ambumosi.
Ambumosi.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome. And they are a Place Foundry. Go for it.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I do see some new faces, so welcome tonight to what's been a series of planning sessions with the trustees. And I am the CEO and founder of Place Foundry based in Rockford, Illinois. We work with clients throughout the region here and beyond, municipalities, economic development organizations. And then we also, through our architecture and engineering division of the company, work directly with property owners. So we really bring that all the aspects from vision to our goal as a team is to help our clients get to groundbreaking and ribbon cutting ceremonies. So the plans that you see here tonight are a reflection of the journey we've been on, specifically for Main Street. That's actually one thing before I get started in the presentation tonight, making a turn in how we're naming this. So up to this point, we've been saying downtown plan. And the more and more we've been working on the plan and really focusing on Main Street at the core, saying, let's go with Main Street District. And not because downtown can really, that could be a large, and when you say downtown, I'm talking downtown Chicago, Rockford, Lloyd, right, to really help us scale. So just to really focus on. So from this point forward, you're going to be saying Main Street District, just as we pivot in the future to our next meeting, talking about the I-90 and Rockford Road corridor, we will call that a district as well. But tonight we're looking at downtown and specific, and I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to keep the presentation side of this shorter than where we've been, because at the end, I really want you to walk around. Some of you have already started to look at the boards, but maybe through the lens of what I share here briefly, then go back to the boards, and we really would like your feedback. The trustees leadership is going to be making decisions on your behalf of the community on two key projects that we're excited about, and we've heard excitement from stakeholders that have been at previous meetings. We have been trying to take in the feedback so far on those projects, and we would like, if there's anything else that you see that you missed or is a concern, definitely share that with us tonight. So there'll be a three-part. If you have an agenda, I don't see them on the top podium there, but there is an agenda. We're going to talk broadly at the Main Street District level, just to bring, especially those of you, if this is your first time, it's going to be a fast here how we got to this point, and then we're going to get specific into two short-term projects, one to break ground this fall and one next year, 2025. With the Bridge Street lot and then pop-up retail shop Playscapes further north on Main Street. And then, as I said, inviting you into looking at the boards and giving us some feedback. So the process that we've been through on this journey so far started really last year with an initial planning session with the trustees and leadership, village leadership, ultimately pivoting real quick at the beginning of 2024, this year, February, into focusing on Main Street. We're in Q3 right now. It's August, so we still have another 30 plus days. We're going to be finalizing the Main Street District Plan, the branding and storytelling around this to really help so the broader community understands what the opportunities are ahead. And then we're going to move into the fall quarter, really getting looking at the zoning regulations that we've already recommended for your consideration for approval to get those in place, as well as looking at pre-approved plans for this district. And as you can tell, I've never changed this slide from downtown to Main Street, but for the Main Street District. And then this all is very foundational this last quarter of this year for us to move into 2025 with engaging with property and developers on the stretch within this area. So tonight, this is new introduction of some language. You and the community will have a full report that has everything you're seeing here and more. And the way we're structuring this, as we've been going through the process and helping other people understand, how are we articulating a vision for this corridor? There's a lot of uses that are already here. And what we saw from the outset is we're trying to merge a new Main Street district with existing assets, right? And that's hard. That's really hard to do because this is not an exercise of taking people's properties. This is not an exercise of making this the most dense environment. This is a process of how do we start to reach some of those broader goals that you have in terms of economic development, specifically increasing retail activity, pedestrian movement along here, because those ultimately increase the environment. So when we walk through again, and this is repeating some things, well, it's when we identified downtowns early on from St. Charles, Geneva, Beloit, Rockford, fill in the blank, Galena, and we identify what are those experiences, right? Walkable shops, restaurants, hotels, pubs, right? A lot of those amenities that when we travel, we might experience, but then it's like, well, how do we actually get that here on our Main Street? And at the same time, not have this become overrun with mass scale development, right? That's a trick. That's a real trick. And so we're trying to propose what we call it our SML strategy, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. This approach avoids sort of the long-term paralysis. A lot of times in these planning exercises, you'll look at the boards and your eyes will immediately go to, there's a building on this property and it's 4 stories tall, and is that really possible? Or you naturally go to that end state, and then we get stuck and then nothing happens. And so what we're trying to do with the short term, medium term, long term, say, what are those things that are low hanging fruit we can do now and can start to build the momentum? So testing ideas for pilot projects, making things visible so that we can see like this is really happening. Like this is not just on the boards, but this is really happening. And then some incremental and impactful progress. So we're going to measure this over time. How are we doing? So when we talk about the pop-up retail shops, not only do we want to get those 14 units up and running, the partnerships going and really helping entrepreneurs, but we want to start to see what are the results, right? And one of the metrics that you will see in the report to us is how many businesses are going from those pop-up retail spots to hopefully new brick and mortar spaces here right along Main Street, trying to build a local business community that people don't have to leave. They can really grow here. And then that's what builds the momentum and ultimately broader community buy-in. So lots of words on the slides. These are you'll see in your final report that's coming next month, end of the quarter, around short term. So short term is going to be things that we can do today over the next couple of years. So today being it's August, and we have a deadline that we are trying to reach on Bridge Street to get to break ground on that this fall. So that's part of the short term. But there's other things that we want to do in the short term that are very vital for this plan to really work. One is establishing a Main Street Association, a 501c3. So as we're looking at all the funding opportunities, there's lots of funding opportunities for infrastructure, for business support and development, and then incentivizing developers and property owners to make improvements. Some of the funds can come through the village, but in many cases, those grant sources need to go through like a downtown Main Street 501c3 entity. And also that also helps to keep it more community-based. So you're a part of the decision-making process. So we're recommending that to get that going. Evaluate and establish a tax increment financing district just for this area as a way to if it meets the test, to be able to capture economic development that specifically goes back into this area. If it doesn't meet the test, there are alternative economic development tools ways to fund that we can explore. As I said, adopt a new zoning that we presented at the last meeting around Main Street core, which is really focused along Main Street, and then the edge areas, which are about a block east and then a couple of blocks west of Main Street. Implement the pop-up retail, allow ADUs and a accessory commercial units, and then work with property owners to create plans for priority development areas. So that's the kind of activity that's very tangible as well as long-term, setting you up, positioning you for the future. I don't want to make you have to click, so you'll see on the boards, there's a board over on the left side that also has this on the screen, but we start to show you here what that specifically looks like in terms of short-term and physical infrastructure is the Bridge Street parking lot and community space, and then the pop-up shops here in the north at Hodges Run. And then you'll also see some proposed design changes along Main Street, particularly at the Bridge Street intersection. But these two blocks here, right here in front of the village, we really believe that to create that pedestrian environment, it's going to be important for us to, everything from the sidewalks to landscaping and lighting is going to be critical for making this go. And you're going to see now we're really focusing on these two blocks. We haven't forgotten the entire corridor. There's a lot of decisions that still need to be made and really working with property owners. But we say if we can get the 2-3 blocks solid and going, in the short and medium term, then you will have that vibrant downtown, or excuse me, Main Street district. I gotta stop saying. In the midterm, so 3 to 6 years. One thing too about timescales, I'm really hesitant to put time because it's hard to predict the future. There's a lot of things that could change. There's funding sources that may not even be on the table right now that could move things forward. But a lot of this is predicated on property owners. And how they view their property and how they want to see things happen. But I have to put some sort of time. So 3 to 6, really move forward with implementing the pre-approved building plans for mixed use and multifamily developments. So we talked last time about capturing the downsizers. People were trying to get out of their single family homes, the 55 plus market. How can they be a part of the Main Street district and getting units like that online? Revised parking requirements and setbacks to enable that kind of development. So there's always going to be a tension, as we said, between parking and new buildings, and then begin the infrastructure improvements on Main Street. So I would like to see, as we're looking at the various funding sources, that we at least have a plan here, but of course, that fits within your entire Main Street corridor plan for enhancing walkability. So really, again, walkability, because that pedestrian safety and movement is so critical. And I said it last time, and I'll repeat, the decisions we make about the design of Main Street, it's hard to come back and replace. Once you put it in place, it's hard, you can fix it, but it's costly. So wanted to make sure we try to get it right at the outset. So when you look at, sorry, I labeled that wrong, I should say midterm 3 to 6. This is where you're starting to see, whoa, we got some new structures being planned, right? So infill lots that are vacant right now is where we're proposing more mixed use ground floor commercial space with residential or office or co-working space above. But again, we're trying to get more retail spaces here along Main Street introduced. There's opportunities further up with River Street. And looking at ways to take existing structures and bring them into the future where we have more ground floor retail space here at River and Harrison, and then some opportunities further north at like right near Pine Lane about introducing just again small scale commercial and residential spaces along Main Street. And then long-term 7+ years, this is that future where you might see, wow, okay, we've got this mix of retail experience happening, this mix of living experience, and there might be some more larger mixed-use projects for key sites that could emerge. And so as a result, so developing those types of opportunities, as well as constructing more dedicated parking facilities. And that's not that could be surface level, that could be low scale parking garages. I'm not talking about massive parking garages, but usually 2 levels is probably a good max. Downtown Libertyville, Illinois is a good example of how you get a parking garage without even knowing it. You can't even tell It's in the downtown, and I use it quite a bit when I'm there. And then achieve a critical mass of residents and businesses to create a vibrant, walkable downtown. So the goal is year 7, people who have been at the pop-up retail spaces for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, maybe less than that, right? They're now ready to move into some of the new opportunities. So yeah, it's a staged approach here. It doesn't always mean that someone's going to start here and end here. Someone could actually move here from a different community because they're of the experience. But really at the core of this plan is about supporting small entrepreneurs who really want to get a chance, can't afford $17 a square feet in a retail spot, but they can get their go and they can build their market and their base. And now at the same time, we've got a mixed use building that's been constructed and they're able to afford that 17, 18, whatever the per square foot number is at that time. So that's real key for when people say, how do we make sure that we have small businesses be successful at the same time you have large projects that are demanding that kind of dollar per square foot? It's a scaled approach over time. And then here there's a couple of vacant lots where there could be opportunities to introduce some, again, I call the downsizing 55 plus sort of luxury apartments along further off Main Street. And what we will show in the plan is examples of how this can work in infill lots throughout where there's vacant lots currently. And for residents who say, I have a vacant lot or I have a home that we're looking at the cost to renovate it and repair it, and it doesn't make sense. But if you decide you might want to go towards building a townhome, right, with the pre-approved plans that the village has put in place, right, you can make that happen. Any questions on that? How am I doing, Stacy, on time? Okay. All right, so let's move to Bridge Street and parking lot community space. So there's some key updates for tonight, and then take a look at the boards when you get a chance. One is we replaced the pre-engineered fabric canopies with a lattice metal structure. Actually, it will be designed here locally as opposed to being manufactured out of the community. One for cost, but also to the canopy that we proposed, the long-term maintenance around that, and your constant eventually got to clean it. There's a lot to it. It looked great when we were talking about it earlier in the year, but the practicality around that. And so I just want to make sure the community understands that's a change. We worked, it's a small lot, but it's how we can get the circulation. So when it starts to max out for parking, people can back out and still turn around. So we don't create a situation where cars, people can navigate, but again, trying to work through that. And then and then we're going through material selection as a part of the architectural side of it to move us quickly here towards bidding and negotiations to get this out on the street with the trustees' approval. So we're so close. But that is some key updates. And like I said, the board project number 1 shows you what that'll look like. And then you will see some coming soon signs at the site as well to give you a better view of what's to come. There'll be public parking during the day, and then it's an opportunity for the community to plan events there. I believe you're trying to get an event plan this fall.
October, because it's going to be done.
Yeah, it should be done.
What's the event?
Yeah, have a nice groundbreaking. But there will be opportunities for food trucks to come in and park there to kind of complement what's going on. You've got the coffee shop at the corner, so lots of cool new public space there. Then let's see, when we get to the pop-up retail shops and Playscape. So some key updates there is there's nothing like when you have a vision and plan and you start getting into the details down in the civil engineering, looking at existing easements on the lot and going, okay, we got to move some things around because we don't want to put slabs where they can't go. So we have made some adjustments to the layout but you'll see that reflected on the board. Common area restrooms, I think the last time when we talked, I'm just looking at you because you were here, we hadn't really figured out what that was going to look like and how do we design that so it's aesthetically pleasing. Also from a security standpoint and just cleanliness and who's going to be managing it. So we've had work through that with the team, and you'll be able to see a little bit. We're going with a more wood look to match the shelters, the pop-up shops. And still being constructed on a CMU, but it'll have, and then also some space for vendors for, if they need a sink as a part of their business or just general utility area to really support the local businesses. So we've got that design figured out. We've added a berm and fencing to separate the single family homes that abut back up to the property. So we'll berm up and add some landscaping, but then we'll also add fencing. It won't be what we can choose between wood fencing or another more decorative style fencing. So that way there is a physical barrier there between the properties. We removed the parking from Hodges Run. We have parking coming off of Hodges Run. So we removed those parking spaces. We have enough parking spaces in the lot which is right off of Main Street. So we decided to take that parking. What we heard is that could be a challenge, so we removed that. And then just some updates at a high level, we have submitted on behalf of the village a DCO grant. Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. These plans are so important to be ready for grants. And so we submitted and we should hear back from them in October. It is a very competitive, highly competitive grant. So I'm not making any promises, but we put in a really good application, a strong story around entrepreneurship and play, introducing, this is what they're looking for, the grant. They're looking for these types of ways of investing in communities. So hopefully October. And then what I just love about this project too is your partnership that you've established with the schools. Because for those of you who are new, so the high school students are going to be building the pop-up shelters. And so they're actually
Next week
starting, yeah. So they will it'll be phased approach, but our team, our architects are working directly with the school, and of course with Carol and Joe on the designs, materials, and then thanks to many community members this year, people who have stepped up in terms of being able to contribute to the project to make it happen. So next year this is a 2025 project, so a lot of building, a lot of getting infrastructure in place, so that way that can go live next year. And again, this and accelerates.
May I just for one moment? Mike, would you stand and face the audience?
I'll sit.
Okay. This is the godfather of pop-up markets. I attended a conference last November, and so here we are. What is that? 8 months later, going to make this. Begin. Let's say begin. So he had a great idea, and we've stolen the best and adapted and brought on board, as David said, a lot of partnerships. So we're really, really proud of what we've all been able to do. And thank you, Mike.
Good
work.
So that'll be another groundbreaking.
Yes, yes.
Oh. I'll keep going. So what's next? We will, as I said, we're going to be wrapping up the storytelling and execution part of this. So the Main Street District branding will be, we have some recommendations for the look of the whole district, everything from your marketing materials to how we'll be helping you tell the story. We want to get all this information out. So we're going to launch a project website as a way for people to, especially those who this is new. This is what's happening, and it'll be a way too to help keep everybody informed on announcements and key events ahead, and then implement these short-term projects. So just say, here we go. Pending all of your approvals, right, Bridge Street. Next thing is pivoting quickly to work with ZBA. So, Joe and I have worked that to queue that up, so we can start to bring that forward. Like I said, launch a pop-up retail and then establish the 501c3. Ultimately, that will lead to the next steps ahead with types of development opportunities along Main Street and working with property owners. So I guess 6 o'clock. So tonight it's a shorter slide deck presentation because I really, again, take the time to walk around and look at the boards. Audie and I will be on either side. If you have any questions, but before we do that, just anything from you trustees?
I like the concept that we moved away from incubators to pop-up retail, so we need to really cement that when we describe this to people. I mean, I like the fact that it's
The new word.
the new in word. I mean, and same thing with the Main Street District. I mean, we just gotta spread those words because that's really develops and puts together a picture of what it is and not what it's not, right? So I think that's pretty key. So I'm gonna commit to that. And I think everybody here, you talk to somebody, use those words and let them know, get strict excitement going about this. So I think it's the best way of communicating. We put stuff on Nextdoor. We could, do whatever, but talk to your neighbors about it, right? And or share your article. How about that?
I also think one of the major likes from my perspective is being able to blend preserve the best of what is on Main Street and then build on that and expand. So that everyone has some involvement in it, those who have been longtime residents and investors and property owners here, as well as being able to create opportunity for new.
Well, that ends the formal part. So like I said, take a look at the boards. If you have any questions there, I know this is a part where some people may not like, but this will be helpful because as we've done the planning process, any comments that you have, we take them in. And then like you heard, we got rid of parking. That was a strong voice coming from that. And so if you have any comments or feedback, you can tell us. We have some sticky notes that you can attach to the board with. And these are some questions. What do you like? What do you not like? What was unclear in all of this? And what are you interested in making happen in the next 2 years? I think those conversations are important for the village to know. If you see, especially if you're a property owner or a business along this corridor, what do you see that you can help make happen?
And if it doesn't apply to a particular board and is a general question, just feel free to attach it to the counter over there. Or leave it at the counter or anywhere.
So we'll put these out and there's 10 and
Maybe
that's.
just- Yes.
But thank you, everybody.
There's a sign-up sheet back here as well, if you want to sign up for our mailing list. Sign in, you don't have to, but that way we can keep you up to date on what's coming up.